In the previous video, we did the installation and configuration of the vSphere Data Protection Appliance. So to take a look at doing backups and restores with it, we need to go to the vSphere web client. There's no actual plugin for the traditional vCenter environment, and this integrates only with the vSphere web client. In the previous video, we had accessed the console of the appliance and run through the configuration wizard. After a pretty lengthy restart, probably about 20 minutes or so, we're now back to the point that we can go back into the web client. There's a section listed for vSphere Data Protection, and when I click on it, it will list the various VDP appliances, and we can have up to 10, which can do 100 virtual machines a piece at 2 terabytes capacity a piece. I'm just going to go ahead and click connect because I've only got the one appliance anyway. In this new vSphere Data Protection area, we can see we've got a few tabs, a Getting Started tab, a Backup, Restore, Reports. Let's take a quick look at the configuration. If we click over there, we'll see that there's not a lot actually to configure here, but notice at the bottom of this screen, we have the backup window configuration. So you'll notice that actually the appliance is only designated to perform backup activities, unless you manually run backups, from 8 at night until 8 in the morning. From 8 in the morning until 11 in the morning, we have what's called the blackout window. And that's where various metadata and file system cleanup is going to occur if we've deleted backups, for example, where those blocks are going to be discovered and reassociated or released actually to the file system and made available again. We also have a maintenance period, which is where activities like deduplication happens. So if we want to, we can change these windows, but the main thing to be aware of here is that no automated backups will happen outside the backup window. No backups at all can occur during the blackout window, even if you run them manually. And you could run backups manually during the maintenance window, but it's not going to run any on a schedule. The blackout window must be allowed to exist, and it takes 3 hours, and that's all you can really do with it. In terms of the maintenance window, the various tasks that have to occur there, if for whatever reason we can't complete a full pass of them during the maintenance window, they'll just stop and they can pick up at the next point. So that's reasonably simple. There's really not a lot else to look at here. We've got an email tab that we can go to, and we can configure some email details for whether we want to get reports and what the outgoing mail server is and how to go about connecting to it, what addresses we want, and when we want notifications sent out. So that's pretty straightforward. Now in my case, I've actually already set up and run a backup in the interest of saving time. So if I click over to my backup tab, we can see that I have a backup job for W2K8R22 daily. And I don't really have to specify any of those things. So if I just click new here, I'll just select a particular virtual machine or group of virtual machines potentially. Click next and then decide when we want it to be backed up. And we can be fairly specific about that if we need to. And we can also say how long to keep the backups for, and it'll automatically remove them. Now this is all going to get deduplicated and done as a series of full backup to start and then incremental backups following that. So configuring the backup jobs is actually quite simple. If we click over to the Reports tab, we can see a little bit of history for that. So we can see that I did have a recent successful backup, and it was for W2K8R2-2 daily. I actually had some of those backups fail initially, and that doesn't really show here, even under recent failed backups. If I go to the event console, then we can see a little bit more detail of what's been going on, and we may still see those previous failures that I had. Here's a warning related to backups. And actually, this is what I was going to talk about. We need to go in and configure this disk.enableUUID property to false. So this was actually the cause of why my backups were failing. So we can see some of those details here, and we can search through for other warnings or failures. Let's go take a look at that option in the virtual machine. So if I go back to my regular inventory and just go find this virtual machine W2K8R2-2, we can go and access this setting pretty easily. Although this setting requires the virtual machine to be off. I'm into the virtual machine. I've got the Manage tab open, and we can see we've got a little edit box here for edit virtual machine settings. And inside there, you'll see that we have a VM options tab. So I'm going to go in there, open up advanced, and then inside the advanced, we'll need to scroll a little bit, and you'll see we have configuration parameters and then edit configuration. Mine actually is grayed out because I need to shut down this virtual machine. But once we do shut down that virtual machine, we're going to go back and find that disk UUID option and set it to false. That's going to make your backups run much more reliably, and you'll probably find they hang around 92% and stay there for quite a while if you haven't done that. Let me close this section. Let's go back over to the home page, and from there back into the vSphere Data Protection area. And from here, if I wanted to do a restore, now that I have backups of this, I can just click onto the Restore tab, and we'll see that I've got backups of W2K8R2-2. If I expand them, I can see the backups that I have, and choose one of my backups and decide to restore it, it's going to be pretty easy to do that. So I've just selected it. You'll notice we have an option to lock or unlock a backup. These could get purged by virtue of our retention policy. So if we want to make sure that a backup that might represent a project milestone or something like that doesn't get removed automatically, we could go ahead and lock it here. I'm not going to do that in this case, and I'm not going to delete it, but I'm going to click restore. And from there, we'll have the option to restore the entire virtual machine. Now I already have that virtual machine up and running, so I may want to say that I don't want to restore it to its original location, and I'm going to give it a new name with, a timestamp in it and send it up to my data store. Now in this case, it's going to go out and restore the entire virtual machine. So now that we've gone and confirmed the restore action is going to get started, we'll take a look in a later video at doing file level restore inside a guest virtual machine, where we're actually going to connect using our web browser from inside the virtual machine to the VDP appliance and then restore individual files.